G'day, I'm just out on a bit of a walkabout and it's lunchtime. So out in this beautiful bit of forest right next to the river. Thought I'd go and have a forage around and see what I can find for lunch. And you know, it's a tough gig this, but someone's got to do it. So anyway, I thought we'd go along together and see what we can find. So we'll come back and get the fire and everything going a bit later on. I'm in the middle of nowhere and I've got planes flying overhead. Go figure. So there's a lot of stuff around here to eat. I'm looking for one thing in particular today because I've got a particular recipe in mind and I saw a bit earlier on the way in. So if I can remember where that was, it shouldn't be too difficult. If I'm talking quietly, I apologise. It's just out here it seems almost a travesty to sort of talk loudly. And bingo, here's our meal. Let me just reconfigure the camera here so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, just down here guys, this is some nettle. So it's urticaria and it has been used extensively by humanity as a source of food and medicine, as well as for string making and a whole range of other bits and pieces. So let me just pause here and set this up and I'll pull this out of the ground and we'll go and cook it up. So here we are again looking at our nettle plant that we found. This is going to be lunch, as we just discussed. So a few tips with picking up nettles. Gloves is usually the first one. So let's grab those and make sure you've got something to carry this back in, unless you're going to carry it in your hands. It can be a little bit challenging. Now, people get quite upset about nettles, worried about the stingers, worried about getting the hairs in their hands when they're foraging for it, and what happens to those hairs when you cook it up. Now, I've been cooking with nettle for a long time. It's something I make a nettle tea out of a lot when I'm out in the field. We drink it and eat it in the house as a vegetable and as a tea. So it's one of those things, you just get used to it and you'd be amazed where those nettles just fade away to when you expose them to heat. So gloves definitely. If you haven't got gloves, improvise. Go down low, pick out your nettle plant, and here's a good healthy specimen. And if I was going to grab more, I'd put that into a foraging bag. I've just got an old one that I recycled from days bygone. I'm not very far away from my camp, so I'm just going to walk back with this as it is and pick up any others on the way through. So we'll adjourn back there. Alright, the billy's on, tea's in there brewing away. It's the only way to cook bush tea. Leave the tea bag in there, let it boil away. You've got the presence of mind too, and you can find some around you. Grab a eucalypt tree gum leaf, chuck it in there, and it's a unique and very traditional bush tea. Great flavour, can't recommend it high enough. Let's have a look quickly then at what we're doing for lunch. So while the tea's brewing, we'll go ahead and sort out our nettle soup. So all I use for my nettle soup, it's a very simple recipe. Gloves again, don't worry, I've already been stung once. It's not that bad. Using my second cup, I'll grab my nettle. So my cup's here. So all I need in that is a bit of soup, a bit of water. Put my soup stock to be brothed and brewed up in. So for those of you ex-military types, it's first rivet. Now I just add a bit of stock. The stock I use is just a It's a healthy one, no MSG, all that kind of good stuff in it. Generous portion, maybe about a teaspoon. Let that dissolve in there. Razor stock paste, I just carry it with me in my brew gear, it's great. And then all I want to do is basically take my nettle leaves and get them into the cup. The stem I'll utilise for some string making a bit later on. There's a couple of different types of nettle in Australia. We have the introduced one, we also have some native ones. All are great, all are very useful. So there's my leaves, there's my stock. All that's going to happen next is that's just going to be put on the fire to brew up. I don't know if you can see all that. Pretty straightforward, very simple. So let's get that on the fire. And we'll come back in a minute when that's all cooked up. So one of the things that really sucks about bush cooking is you just got to sit and wait by a campfire in the bush. Terrible. I don't know how people cope with it. Still terrible. So there you have it, guys. There's my lunch for today. We've got a nice cup of hot black tea, our nettle soup or nettle broth, whatever way you want to term that. I managed to pick up a couple of bits of wandering dew, and there's some oxalis. Those of you in the northern hemisphere might know that as wood sorrel. Well folks, lunch is made, so you're going to have to just bear with me and watch me enjoy it. Just a couple of minutes, just because I want you to make sure you can see that I'm actually eating the nettle, because that blows people away. It's a prickly thing, it stings. Put it in the fire, put it in some hot water, sting's gone. As I mentioned earlier on, oxalis, beautiful flavour. The Latin name gives it away, but don't eat a lot of it. And a bit of wandering dew. So there's my greens. That's not too shabby. I've had worse. Back to the main course. We've got our nettle soup now. You can see the nettle's taken on a real cooked spinach type appearance. Okay. The broth's absorbed a lot of the nutrient that we've managed to boil out of the nettle plant itself, and it's neutralised those nasty stinging hairs. That is delicious. Just going to pull out a leaf here so you can actually see me munching down on that. One nettle leaf. Oh, just joking. Beautiful. That is really, really nice. You can boil it up, cook it up without the broth at all. To me, the broth is another way of just getting some extra nutrient in. For those of you who have been with me on courses or in training events in the past, you'll know that I don't really eat a lot out in the field or in terms of carried food. I just tend to take staple items and live off the land as much as I can. I think that's a good, healthy approach to keeping yourself honest and keeping yourself fully engaged in the environment, and making sure your skill sets stay at the top of your game. A couple of quick safety tips I needed to mention. common sense tips really, safety tips. I don't really do safety tips. It's common sense. When you're cooking on a campfire, have a good glove and use tools, whether it's a leatherman or campfire implements to just pick up hot things off the fire. It seems like basic common sense, but every course I run, I watch someone reach into the fire and grab particularly the handles on things like this and this cup. Oh, it's handles. They're obviously designed for the purpose of getting the cup off the fire, and then they leave their fingerprints firmly plastered onto those handles. Uncool.